A couple of criminals decided to rob a bar, but they had no idea it belonged to Chechen gangsters. You'll be terrified when you see how the real mafia takes revenge. Bob Saganowski is just an ordinary bartender. In the evenings, he works at a small bar in Brooklyn. The place used to belong to his cousin Marv, but a few years ago, it was taken over by Chechen gangsters. That's when the bar became a drop spot, and the mafia started laundering large amounts of money through it. One evening, Bob is seen pouring drinks for his friends on the house. These men didn't just gather here by chance. They're marking the 10th anniversary of the death of their buddy Richie, nicknamed Glory Days. Marv is furious with his bartender's actions. To make things worse, Bob refuses to take money from one of their regulars, a woman named Millie. Marv insists she pay off all her debts tonight. After work, Bob attends a church service at a local parish. On his way home, the man hears the faint whimpering of a dog somewhere nearby. Following the sound, he finds an injured puppy inside a trash bin. It looks like a pit bull. A woman appears in the yard and tells him she lives in the building. Her name is Nadia. The woman takes a photo of Bob's driver's license to make sure he's not some criminal, then lets him come inside to warm up and clean the poor puppy. It's clear the dog had been badly abused by its previous owner. Bob wants to take the puppy to a shelter, but Nadia warns him that the dog might end up in the wrong hands again. So Bob asks her to keep the pup for a few days, promising to come back for it on Saturday. The protagonist begins to wonder whether he's truly ready to care for a dog. He realizes that adopting a pet is a big responsibility. Later that evening, a car pulls up outside the bar. Two suspicious-looking guys step out, pull on masks, and storm inside with guns. Marv hands over all the cash from the register. Turns out the robbers even managed to knock out the security guard. Bob presses a wet towel to the guard's head. Soon after, Detective Torres shows up at the bar. He recognizes Bob as they go to the same church. Bob claims he doesn't know the robbers, but he did notice that one of them was wearing a broken watch. Turns out, the bar's security cameras weren't working. For some reason, Marv gets furious that Bob told Torres about the broken watch. On Saturday, Bob picks up the puppy from Nadia. The man admits he's never had a dog before, so Nadia goes with him to the pet store. They buy food bowls, a leash, poop bags, a rubber chew ring, and a dog bed. Also, they get a book on how to train dogs. Bob says he's thinking of naming the puppy Rocco or Mike. Nadia likes the name Rocco better. At home, Bob unpacks his purchases and then heads back to work to clear the snow in front of the bar. Chechen mobster Chavka and his men drive up to the gate. He shows a bound, injured man in the back of the van. Chavka says he wants the robbers to be found. After all, they stole his money. If Bob and Marv can't find them, they'll have to repay the $5,000 themselves. Marv is visibly shaken and goes to meet a man named Fitz. It turns out Fitz is one of the criminals who robbed the bar, and Marv was the one who planned the whole thing. The man warns his accomplice that the police and the Chechens know about the broken watch and asks Fitz to get rid of it immediately. Bob tries to train Rocco at a nearby stadium. There, he encounters Nadia, who's out for a jog. The woman offers to look after Rocco while Bob's at work. The protagonist thinks that's a great idea. Back home, Marv argues with his sister Dottie. It turns out their father is in a nursing home, and the care costs a fortune. Now we understand why Marv got involved with criminals and helped stage the robbery of his own bar. Bob and Rocco are out for a walk in the park. A stranger approaches the protagonist and compliments him on the dog. Later that day, the same man shows up at Bob's house. He introduces himself as Eric Deeds and claims to be Rocco's rightful owner. The dog is microchipped, and Eric has all the documents to prove it. He demands that Bob return the puppy. Bob refuses, since he knows Eric abused the dog. Eric then takes Bob's umbrella and walks away. That afternoon, Bob meets Nadia at a local cafe. He notices deep scars on her neck. The woman admits she inflicted them on herself. Nadia reveals that she used to struggle with substance abuse in the past. In the evening, Marv complains to Bob that someone's been watching him. While cleaning up trash and tidying the area around the bar, they notice a black bag on the fence. Bob opens it and finds a severed arm with a broken watch and a wad of cash inside. Bob wraps the arm in parchment and foil as if it were a piece of meat. Just then, Eric shows up at the bar. He greets Bob mockingly and tells him to say hello to Nadia. Marv warns Bob that this guy is dangerous. He's the one who killed their old friend Richie 10 years ago. Eric spent years in prison and a psychiatric hospital, so he's not someone to take lightly. Bob goes out for a walk, while Marv panics. He's terrified the Chechens might connect the robbery to him. He frantically tries to wash the red stains off the money. Bob keeps training Rocco. Detective Torres shows up and admits they still haven't found the robbers. He shows Bob a photo of Eric and tells him that this man is a suspect in the disappearance of Richie Glory Days. Bob visits Nadia. He asks her what kind of relationship she had with Eric Deeds. For some reason, this question infuriates Nadia, and she storms off in anger. Bob heads to work. Soon, Chovka arrives at the bar with his associate Andrei. Bob hands the Chechen a yellow envelope filled with cash and pours him a whiskey. Chovka informs the protagonist that the bar will once again serve as a drop spot for mafia money on Super Bowl Sunday. On his way home, Bob runs into Nadia. She's in tears. The woman confesses that Eric is her ex-boyfriend. At first, he treated her well, but later he became abusive, and he still harasses and blackmails her. Meanwhile, Marv meets with the second robber, Fitz. He suggests robbing the bar again, this time on Super Bowl Sunday during the mob drop. Fitz refuses, since he's already lost his brother after the first robbery. Marv then asks him to close the trunk of his car, and the moment Fitz does, Marv slams on the gas and runs him over. After that, he calmly drives away from the scene. That evening, Bob returns home and notices something in Rocco's crate. It's the same umbrella Eric had taken, which means he's been here again. Marv meets Eric over lunch. He offers the criminal to rob the bar on Super Bowl Sunday and take the entire mafia drop. Soon, Eric shows up at Bob's place again. This time, he demands $10,000. If Bob refuses, Eric threatens to take the dog and starve it. When Rocco starts howling from hunger, Eric says he'll grab a brick and do something very, very bad to him. Bob visits Marv and Dottie. Marv says he's not feeling well and won't come to work on Super Bowl Sunday. This excuse seems rather suspicious to the protagonist. As game day approaches, Bob gets terribly nervous. He heads to work with Rocco by his side. The main character brings $10,000 with him, intended for Eric. He also hides a loaded gun behind the bar, just in case. Meanwhile, Eric breaks into Nadia's home. He makes himself comfortable in her chair and helps himself to her food. When the woman comes back home from the store, she finds her ex-boyfriend there. Nadia tries to kick him out, but Eric tells her she has no other choice but to come with him to the bar to watch the Super Bowl. Guests begin to fill the bar. Bob grows even more anxious, but keeps trying to do his job well. He spots Nadia sitting at one of the tables with Eric. The sight deeply upsets him. The bar is buzzing with secret, illegal deals. Dozens of envelopes filled with cash pass through Bob's hands. The protagonist tells Eric he brought the $10,000 and demands the dog's ownership papers in return. Eric just laughs and boasts that Nadia is his girlfriend. Marv leaves his house, pulls up near the bar, and watches everything unfold from a distance. Bob manages to speak to Nadia privately and learns that Eric is blackmailing her. The bar is about to close, and the last guests start to leave. Only Bob, Eric, and Nadia remain. The main character hands Eric $10,000. The bully laughs in his face. Eric knows that the drop safe with the money stash will automatically unlock at 2 a.m., and he plans to take everything. To make sure Bob doesn't resist, Eric grabs Nadia and holds her hostage. That's when Bob drops a bombshell. 10 years ago, a man named Richie, aka Glory Days, was killed. The thing is, Richie owed Marv a lot of money. When Bob found out that Richie had won a fortune at the racetrack, he robbed him and then took care of him with a couple of bullets. He dissolved Richie in a barrel of heavy-duty cleaning acid, so no one would ever find him. The real killer wasn't Eric. It was Bob. Moments later, the bartender grabs the gun and shoots Eric, twice. The protagonist turns to his friend and calmly says that he was getting really tired of that guy. Besides, he hurt dogs. You don't come back from that. Nadia is stunned. She stares at Bob with wide, terrified eyes and admits she's scared. Bob tells her to go home. A few moments later, the phone rings. It's Marv. He doesn't say a word. He and Bob both know things didn't go according to plan. Soon, the Chechens arrive, led by Chovka. They've come to collect their money. Chovka tells Bob that he knows everything about Marv. That's not a secret that he was the one behind both robberies. And in their world, that's not something you walk away from. Chavka says that Marv is now retired and has left the bar to Bob. Obviously, they both know exactly what that means. The Chechens make sure Marv never causes problems again. Then, they help Bob get rid of Eric's body. The next day, Detective Torres shows up at the bar. He offers the main character his condolences about Marv and says he's now investigating the disappearance of Eric Deeds. Eric vanished without a trace, just like Richie Glory Days did 10 years ago. Interestingly, Torres points out, Eric was in a psychiatric hospital when Richie went missing, which means someone else must have been responsible. Torres hints to Bob that he sees him as the prime suspect in Eric's disappearance, but he has no proof. Later, Bob walks over to Nadia's house and asks if she'd like to go for a walk. The woman agrees and steps inside to grab her coat.